All right, guys, welcome back. We are in a bit of a tighter space because we are working on the purple car. So I ended up throwing the motor from the black car into here, mainly just for storage, and then I realized that most of the stuff is there to get this running. So I'm gonna take a day or two to see if I can get this figured out. I'm still waiting on stuff for the black car, so I figured I can do this. If it takes more than 2 or 3 days to get it fired and running, then it's not worth it to keep going. But if it's something quick where I can get it running, A, it's easier to move the car, B, I could take the car to some events for more seat time while I'm getting that car worked on. Yeah, it's missing a lot of stuff that that car has, but it still at least would let me get a little bit more seat time. Just seat time's always good. So got the motor in, drivetrain's in, still got to put the starter on. The main issue I'm having is one of the previous owners was nice enough to paint this engine bay, which is super cool, although it's really dirty right now. But they cut the wiring coming out of here. They just literally clipped it right there, which is a big bummer because that's a big harness. It's the front harness of the whole car. So headlights, all that stuff doesn't work, but also some of the ignition stuff runs through the front harness. So this is our beautiful, beautiful art that we've got going on in the car right now. So these wires and these wires are all the wires that they cut running out of there. I've already stripped all the electrical tape, the boot, all that stuff to get to it easier. But I decided that, again, there's some ignition stuff that comes out of this harness, but not all of it. So I did some research, and I think these are the only wires that I need to wire in to make this work. Basically, most of that is wiring for the coils and then the main body relay. A lot of the other stuff, hopefully, we'll see, but hopefully is just stuff that is, like I said, front running lights, turn signals, relays for other stuff. We're gonna find out for sure, but I looked at the harness a little bit and it looks like that's everything that is necessary. So I figured I'm gonna give it like a day or two to try and mess with these wires and get them connected and see if I can get this thing to fire. And then if I can get this to fire, then it's worth it to put another day or two in it to put cooling system and stuff on it to get it running for now. So yeah, I have a bucket seat that could work for this thing. Besides that, it's already fully gutted, so that will help with drifting. Like I said, the original plan for this car is that this is going to be the car I build as a competition drift car and use for the beginnings of my journey towards trying to compete in drifting rather than just drifting for fun. But in the meantime, it might be like, I'm hoping under a month, but it could be a month or two to get the black car fully done. So in the meantime, I would like something to drive for events, and again, just being able to drive this thing would be good for moving it around and things like that. So I think it's worth it to put a little bit of time into this car and see how much it takes to get it running. So I figure I'll put maximum of 2 days into wiring. If this thing fires, then I will let myself put another day or two into getting the cooling system mounted, getting oil system mounted, getting power steering mounted, throwing a seat in it, and making it a car that's fully ready to drive on track. So we're gonna give it a shot. Not sure if it's gonna work. I feel confident though and hopeful. I think it's gonna work, but only way to find out is to do this. So we're gonna get into some wiring. Like I said, I did a little bit of research already. I read some of the wiring harness diagrams already, so it looks possible. I've already got the coils switched over to new plugs. I know these are crappy plugs, but with this being a temporary build, it's kind of like a whatever process. The main relay, I don't have a plug that's a high amperage plug for these guys, so they're just going to be spade connectors and heat shrink. I know this is a really roundabout way that I'm doing this whole process, because the turbo motor in that car is going to end up in this car, and then the non-turbo motor that's supposed to stay in that car is in this car. I know it's really mixed up right now, but this is the best way for me to be able to have, you know, a car to practice on when that's getting built, and then once that's going, it'll give me time to get that motor dialed in while still being able to build this chassis. End goal is that I pretty much always have one car running. If it works out, then, you know, I have a running car to take to the track. So we're gonna see how this goes. I know a lot of people hate wiring. For me, I hate diagnosing wiring, but I actually love running wire. I don't know, it's kind of one of those things, once you get into a groove, you kind of, it becomes like therapeutic for me. And, you know, it's one of those things where you just are kind of doing the same thing. Once you understand what wires need to go where, it's just connecting everything together, and there's very little thinking involved. Here, it's just a rinse and repeat process. Strip both wires, add connector, crimp them together. There was a bunch of wires that need to be done, so we're basically getting all of these done so that they are prepped, ready to go, and then ready to go through the firewall. Well, we have all of the, what I think are necessary wires, pinned out with more wire. So I need to heat shrink these guys. I need to figure out some shielding for this set of wires. This is the crank angle wires, and then we'll get them pushed through that hole there, and then we'll start all of our wiring in the engine bay over dirt. So heat shrink real quick, wiring in the front of the car. We got all of these wires done. I actually, after a little bit of research, found out that I needed to get the starter wire, and these are all the main power wires that go to the main fuse. So got this guy done, got some thick wire on there, also got the starter signal wired up. So now we can go ahead and throw all of that stuff into the throw it through the firewall. I need to get all of the modules and stuff remounted, and then we'll get that passed through, and then we can start working on the outside and getting everything wired. I think what I'm going to do is get all this stuff ran, get it connected where it needs to connect, and then I'll pull it back through and then loom it. So I think that's going to be the easiest way. I don't know. We'll see. I could loom it now. That might be a good idea. Maybe I'll just loom it now, because I know I can at least loom out a little bit. So I might do that. We'll see. Maybe not. All right. Well, it is day number 3 of trying to get the wiring figured out on this thing. Yesterday I was not able to do as much as I was hoping to do. I just had other non-car stuff that was going on, so I was kind of sporadically working on this thing, so that's why I stopped recording. It was kind of sporadic and it just was a little jumpy. But yesterday I got the harness pulled through and got everything just loomed past the boot, and then I got most of the main relay wired up. I also got, let's see, a fuse block set up with the positives running to everywhere they need to go. This is going to be our starter wire here, and then we have this one is our main power, and then this one is, let's see if I can find out, this one is main relay power. So these kind of work together with each other. But yeah, we also got all of the wiring tucked back in this side, Just some of the plugs need to be plugged back in, but we're looking pretty good. All right, well, I've been probing for like an hour or two trying to get signal to everything. I was having an issue with getting the coils to get an ignition signal. I could get them to get power, like main power, but I couldn't get the actual pulsing ignition. Found a few missing power wires to the ECU, so I jumpered those for now just to see if it'll start. I do have, like I said, jumper wire there, and there's another jumper wire up there, so that is more wiring that I'll have to do, but we'll at least see if we can get this thing to start. So I think everything should be good to go. It doesn't have an exhaust on it right now, so it's probably going to mess with the O2 sensor a little bit, because the O2 sensor is like right at the coupler. At least see if we can get to fire. If we can get to fire, then we're in the green to keep going. So we're gonna do that and see what else we can do. I also got the oil coolers hooked up. Obviously they're just sitting, but I realized that there is obviously the input and output line, so I wanted to make sure that I got something just to close off the lines and keep the oil from dumping everywhere. We are good to try and start it and see what it'll do. So let's give it a shot. Well, it runs. We did it. So that's cool. It runs. Those two jumper wires were two wires I missed and didn't realize that they were power wires to the ECU. Technically, as a track car, the only things left is getting the oil cooler mounted, alternator on, and running those two wires, and this thing would be a running driving car. Alright, so we're backing off the project of the purple car. I decided I would stop procrastinating on that and get back onto the turbo setup. So we got the turbo 2 trans here. This is an S4 turbo 2 trans. We're gonna clean this thing out. It's pretty messy in there and it's a little dirty, so we're gonna clean it out. We've got some new seals for it that we're gonna throw on, and then it should be good for the turbo motor. The flywheel went out today, so I'm hoping tomorrow it will be done, and then we can mount the motor together and get the motor into the car hopefully shortly. So we're gonna get this thing washed down and see how clean we can get it. All right, so here we go. I feel like it came out pretty good. Relatively shiny. So with that being said, I think the next thing here, oh yeah, so there's the inside. Got a little rust on it, but it'll clean off. So yeah, we are going to get this guy over onto the trans jack, and then I'm gonna pull the front cover and the front seal off, the rear cover, the rear seal, get it fully drained, and then install new seals, and I've got some gear oil for it. And then these guys I want to pull off and reseal them, and then the lower plate, so these have like basically a lower oil pan. I know it's kind of hard to see, but bolts on down there, and I think it's leaking a little bit because before I sprayed it off it was a little bit wet around there, so I think that's the move there. So please don't judge me for my sandals. They're definitely OSHA approved. But in all seriousness, it was due to the fact that I was planning on pressure washing the transmission, and I knew I was going to get soaked by it, so I figured threw on some sandals, threw on some swim shorts, and just deal with the fact that I'm going to get sprayed. Here we're basically popping these guys off. We've got to get the gaskets scraped off, and then I'm going to go back onto them with a wire wheel to clean them up. These I don't think were a big issue, but I saw a little bit of buildup around them and wasn't totally sure if they were leaking or not, so I figured, we're here, we got the transmission out, might as well reseal everything up and make sure that this transmission's for sure not going to leak, so that's not one of the issues we're dealing with. Alright, we have some, if I can get it twisted, maybe not. So I'm going to use the same stuff I used on the motor. This is just the black RTV for Permatex. I used it when I was a Mazda tech, and honestly, I feel like it works pretty good. So, just going to lay a fine bead all the way around. And I'm just going to go around, spread it. I also cleaned both sides, dried them off. Just run it down. Ta-da! And so now we're going to do the front cover piece. With this guy, we're just going to pull the 4 cover bolts off. And there you go. So we got the front cover piece off. There's the inner seal. I'm going to get this guy cleaned up. I'm going to do some cleaning up in here, and then we will slap it back on. So we got the input shaft all cleaned up. We also got the seal cover all cleaned up. So we're going to pop the seal in the back of here and then pop it back on. So we got our little seal here. We'll grease the inside of this guy and then pop this guy in. Let's slip this on over all of that. And there you go. So when you tighten this guy down, it'll press it in. These are serrated lock nuts, but I'm also going to put a little dot of thread locker on all of them, just some medium thread locker, just to make sure they stay. Something that you can't really see, so you won't know when it comes apart on you, which is not good. Then tighten them down. Like I said, nice and even. Now we're gonna move on. Woo! Almost took you guys out. We're gonna move on to the back one. So, got a little 3D printed plug. We're gonna get this back seal off. The old one's off. Got the new one, and I have a socket that is just wider than it. What we're gonna do, pop this guy on. It's already greased. And we're just gonna hit it till it bottoms out. Lastly, got a little bit of gear oil on the trans plug. We're gonna pop that guy right back in. That should seal us up. Alright, we're now lifted and ready to drain the oil. So we're just gonna see if we can crack this guy loose. So here is another one of those please don't judge me moments. I've got the transmission hanging by some ratchet straps off of the vehicle lift. It's honestly the easiest way. Gives you clearance underneath so that I can pull the pan off and pull these drain plugs off. I hate these compression thread plugs that Mazda uses. I don't know why they use them versus a crush washer, but it drives me absolutely nuts. so we got the trans back on the trans jack. We got it flipped over. I'm gonna get all of this stuff scraped off, get the pan scraped off, get everything cleaned really well, and then we will get this resealed and drop the pan back on, RTV it, stick it down, call it a day. Whenever you are doing any sort of reseal with RTV, it is always worth it to clean all of the metal mating surfaces down to the point where they are shiny, clean, clear of residue, clear of oils, so you can guarantee yourself that it's not going to leak versus rushing it, not fully cleaning it, and then just ending up with something that you did that is starting to fail because it's just starting to leak. It's not fun. It's worth it to go over everything. It's one of those things where I do it because I know if I do it right, then I'm not going to have any issues down the road. I think it's pretty cool with these Turbo 2 transmissions. You can actually, they have this lower pan. The NA transmissions do not. It's kind of nice because you can kind of peek in here when the motor's in the car. You can actually pull this cover off, obviously drain the fluid, and then pull this cover off and see everything going on inside of these transmissions to peek at everything and make sure it looks all pretty good. Everything looks good. The drive dogs or the shift forks look pretty good. The gears don't look like they have too much wear on them, so I think this thing will be pretty good. We'll have to see for sure, obviously, but I think it's going to be good. Won't know for sure until we get it in the car and actually row it through the gears. So now with RTV, I usually do a bead all the way around the inside, and then I'll go back around and do a bead on the outside of each hole just to know that I created a nice good seal on it. It's never failed me in the past. It is a little bit extra RTV, but rather be safe than sorry. And then putting these bolts in, I did use a little dot of medium Loctite to make sure that they weren't going to come out. And then I did end up doing a torque sequence, and that was basically starting on the inside or the center of the trans and then slowly moving out. And it seems to work for me, so that's just what I do. That guy's torqued down. At least the drain bolt's tightened. The fill bolts will have to wait because we got to fill this thing up. Alright, so we got the pan bolted down, torqued, we got the drain plug torqued, we have the secondary drain plug torqued. What we're going to do now is I'm actually going to wait and let the RTV fully dry. I'm going to let this sit overnight. I closed up anything that was important, and I am going to flip it over and put fresh gear oil in it. So for now, this thing's all finished up. You see, so we got the front main seal, the rear main seal, and then the two side plates resealed and the oil pan resealed. The reason I resealed the plates and the oil pan, I don't know if I told you guys, but before I cleaned this thing, it was looking a little wet around those spots, so I wanted to go ahead and get those resealed to make sure that those were good. I also knew the rear input seal was completely shot. It was literally falling apart. And while I was there, anytime you do a trans, if you do a rear main on the trans, you might as well do the front main seal and just make sure everything's sealed up, because if one's going, the other one's probably around the corner from going. But we are gonna call it good for this video, I think. The trans is ready. I am just waiting on the flywheel to get finished up, and then we can mate the trans to the motor, get the clutch in and all that stuff. So I think we're gonna call it for this video, and then next video I will be pulling the black RX-7 back in here, and we will get working on probably cutting the front off as far as the old metal tube stuff that I did, because it looks like crap. We're gonna cut that off, and then we will get the motor and trans put together, and then get the motor in the car and make some motor mounts. Luckily, this is an FC Turbo 2 transmission, so it's already got trans mounts that bolt into the FC chassis. So the idea that I have, we'll get everything mated up, we'll get the trans bolts onto the transmission and get the transmission, or get the whole motor trans assembly into the car, and then I'll bolt up the transmission, because that will set the location front to back where the motor is, and then we'll level the chassis and then level the motor, and then once everything's level, then we can go ahead and make mounts for it and get the motor in the car. So I think that's gonna be it for this video. Like I said, keep an eye out for the next video, because that is going to be when we get the motor in the car. I don't know what, or I don't care what I have to do, the motor will be in the car in the next video. So keep an eye out for that. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. If you saw anything of concern or have anything that you have any questions about, feel free to comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you guys want to support the channel, definitely head on over to my Etsy store. It's got merch there. Also, if you're looking for 3D printed parts, that's where you can find them. Any support is appreciated, and it honestly is what keeps me being able to get these parts and really build this car out and show you guys and take you guys along the way. So if you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. I think that's it for this video. Appreciate you guys. Peace.